Hi, I'm Lynne with Softsquares. Today we're going to do show and tell number 1 for 2024. I've got a rough start this year, being that I had shoulder surgery and different things have been going on. I have not been completing as many quilts or working on as many quilts as normal, but I do have a show and tell to show you of all the quilts that I had been working on with different videos. So you will see in the description, I will put links for each of the videos that these quilts belong to. You will also see on those videos a link that takes you back to this video. So hopefully you can see the whole process from beginning to the end, final project, and that's what my show and tell is all about, is to show you what you've seen me working on. I do have other quilts that I have that were not part of the work in progress that I've done videos on, and I haven't included those here. So all of these you've seen me working on or talked about. So I hope you enjoy. This is the Daydream Quilt. The fabric line is called Silver Jubilee. It's a block of the month quilt through Annie's Kit Clubs. It's a block of the month. There's 12 blocks, and each month they send you the pattern and the fabric for it. These are 16-inch blocks. The link for it is in the description. It is a monthly block of the month. There's 12 blocks in this quilt. It takes 12 months. And then they also give you all your fabric, your stashing, the binding, and the border. So everything you see there comes with the patterns that come monthly. Like I said, there's a link if this is something you want to do. It is an ongoing thing. But the pattern kind of has two names. There's Silver Jubilee and there's Daydream. And this is the back side. So I used a batik. It's actually not part of that fabric line. The finished dimensions for this Daydream quilt is 66 by 82. This is my Winter Forest quilt. It's taken from a panel. Leanna, Pastry Queen Adventures, and I both had the same panel and did a challenge back, I think it was in December. So you'll see videos on both of those. But this is what mine looks like. So all the fabric is from the same line, Winter Forest. And the fabric on the backing is the same green. The finished dimensions for this quilt are 48 by 67. This is the Wildflower Seeds Quilt by Kelly Fannin. This is actually a smaller version of her quilt pattern. Her quilt pattern is, I think, double this. This is actually taken as a block of the month through RebsFabStash for the year 2023. It just took me a really long time to get it finished. Those of you that have been watching me for a while probably saw this on my back wall for a long time. I got the blocks out of order, I got things turned, and at this point it's one of those, it's done and I'm happy with it, kinda. Anyway, this was a lot of fun, except it just took me forever to get through to it. But on the border, I mixed up my scrap fabrics. So you'll see as it goes around, we'll look at it a little closer, but the binding is a scrappy bind. I call it a border, but it's a scrappy binding. Just changing using whatever I had. My quilt finishes at 51 by 51. Remember, this is taken from another quilt, or the pattern, and the pattern, if you make it the way it is written, it's about double this size. Is the Reflections quilt. It was a free quilt pattern through Moda, and I used this really cool ombre fabric. And if any of you remember back in 2023 when I was doing more videos, I had a challenge to myself to each week try to do something different with these colors. These are actually 2 different shades of pink, 2 shades of green. So each line has a ton of little blocks and a lot of little processes to make them work. When you do it and break it down in sections, it goes pretty easy, but I was working on sections for a long time. So anyway, I've got the ombre thing going, and it's really pretty cool, but that is Reflections. That's the name of that pattern. Again, it's a free pattern through Moda. The finished size of this quilt is 70 by 83. If I remember correctly, I think I added a couple more rows because I had so much of this fabric. But it would be something really easy to just keep adding to. Is by Gervais, Pieces of My Heart. It has a lot of little piecing in it. That would be one of my helpers. Poke your head up over, identify yourself. I have helpers now. Anyway, this one was a lot of fun. I was working on this on a couple different retreats, so you may see this in those videos. The finished size of my quilt is 72 by 86. The name of the quilt is Summer Sampler by Gervais, and I do carry this pattern in my shop. And the pattern is actually written with a more extensive border, which I chose not to do, and I just did the big border. So there's actually a more to it if you wanted to go that route. Alaska quilt. It's made with batiks, and I purchased them when I was on my trip to Alaska last year. They are specific for Alaska. You can see the word Alaska, trees and mountains. This one has the water in it and some whales. There's a whale. And then the third fabric is this one right here. Has our, I guess he's a moose. So when I did the quilting, I had them pick these really cute Alaska style animals in this variegated thread that just ties it all together. Then we have our Otterby quilting gang in Alaska, and then I tied it together with batik on the back and binding that's purple. The size of my quilt is 26 by 43. I had 3 1/2 yard pieces of batik, and I just stretched and made it took it as far as I could, adding white fabric and then that cute little center panel, and all the fabric and that little Otterby quilting panel all came from Russian Tailor's Quilt Shop in Alaska. This quilt is one of the 3-yard quilt books. Out of the 3-yard quilt books, I'll show you which book it is. And there's Jessica. she really wanted to be in this video. This came out of one of the 3-yard quilt books, and I typically modify their patterns. I like them as big as I can. So typically their patterns are set that you can make a complete quilt top, including your binding, with 3 1-yard pieces of fabric. I like to take my 3 1-yard pieces and stretch it as big as I can go and get as many blocks as I can. So I typically end up with an extra row and or column. So the dimensions of mine, I'll show you what it is here, but it's a little bit bigger. And then I had 4 pieces of fabric on this one. So I had the blue with that solid, and then the dark blue, and then the pink. So I actually had 4 1-yard cuts, and I used the majority of the extras over here on the border, but there wasn't a whole lot left over, as you can see. This quilt is from the Fabric Cafe Make It Easy with 3-Yard Quilts book. That is a book by Donna Robertson, and it was published in early 2024. The pattern itself is called Frolic, and you should get the book. My quilt finishes at 52 by 60. The book with the pattern, which is on page 10 of that book, says that finished size should be 42 by 60 if you're doing 3 yards. Again, I added 1 more yard, so I have 1 more column to this quilt. All right, this quilt is called the Jelly Roll Twist. It's a free pattern through Fat Quarter Shop. I did this at my last retreat, so you'll see what that process was about as I put it together. But it basically takes 2 jelly rolls and it makes this large quilt. I also got 3 bonus projects out of it, and I'll show you those. Okay, these are the 3 bonus projects. This one right here, I had 1 extra block, and I just put a border around it and used my leftover pieces. I like to use as much of the fabric as I can. This is what was left over after I made all of these snowballed corners. This was the little piece that was left over. So we've got that, and that's the same size as the other little one. And then I have this. So I went ahead and cut up the whole jelly roll, all of the pieces, instead of the number that it told me. So then I had all these cut pieces, and they weren't used. And so I did a kind of a mini rail fence. I don't know if it has a real name. Rail fence is typically 3 rows where you're alternating, and I just did 2 alternating, but they're blocks, and I'll show you individually what they look like. But these are the backs of them. This is the same as what's on the big quilt. This one is too. Oh, look at that, I forgot. I got the same fabric on all of them. Let's look at them closer. My quilt finished at 57 by 80. According to the pattern, which I actually kept it the same size. I usually like go bigger, but I didn't with this one. And according to the pattern, it should be I just saw it. 60 by 84. So evidently I have some bigger seam allowances in there, but that's all right. And then I had all those leftovers. So let me tell you what's going on. So that the two small pieces or little quilts that were hanging up, the one that looked like an extra block and then the one that was a pinwheel, those are both the same size at 23 by 23. So there's little squares. And then the one that's hanging in the middle, that are the 2x2 blocks that alternate, that one ended up being 32 by 32. So you've got like table topper, pillow cover, wall hanging, baby blanket, doll blanket, all kinds of things, in addition to the big quilt with 2 jelly rolls and the yardage that's asked for. Challenge that I did with Leanna. We each got this panel and put them together, and I think we each, you know, it's been a while since I did this. I think we each had the same amount of this fabric, or we had to use our own. I think Leanna used her own, and I had some of the line. But I got lazy. Look what I did with my laziness. I just cut my fat quarters up and made a border. My quilt finishes at 57 by 60. It's basically a panel that's a yard, and I took my fat quarters and I cut them into 2.5-inch strips and then went end to end and just wrapped it around it. This is the latest panel challenge. This one came from Leanna at Pastry Queen. She gave me Die with Sister Chicks and April with April's Craft Room, all the same panel, and the 4 of us did a panel challenge, and that happened just the end of May. So hopefully this looks familiar. This is what I did with mine. I cut them up and I highlighted them, and then we get to this really cute little chicken quilting that's on here that just really pulled everything together. So what I did is I went through my scraps and found fabrics that had the same colors as this. It is a little bit busy, but all those colors at least are in the panel, and that's what I was looking for. My quilt finishes at 56 by 62. This little quilt is my flag quilt. The fabric was given to me and the pattern by one of my subscribers and friends who goes to one of the retreats I go to, from Debbie Dubbins, and she gave me everything all cut up. It was so nice and simple. There really wasn't much of a pattern to it, but I know it was inspired by Tiffany's Quilting Life, and it was just a lot of fun. So I know there's been some bigger flags out there, but I think mine turned out pretty good. My quilt finishes at 50 wide by 27 tall. Look at that cute stitching. Thanks for hanging out with me. I do appreciate you being here. Please subscribe and comment. I'd love to hear your feedback on these. And thanks for hanging out with me today. Go sew something.